Today, I'm going to explain an American horror thriller film called The Shallows. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie opens up with a young boy playing football on a beach in Mexico. It is almost dark, and there is no one around. Suddenly, the boy finds a helmet with a GoPro attached to it. When he plays the first video, we see two surfers enjoying the sunny weather and having a good time. However, soon, they are attacked by a massive shark, which tears them into pieces. The young boy is horrified by their screams, so he immediately flees the place. Following this, the movie flashes back to 2 days earlier, where an American tourist named Nancy Adams is heading to the same beach. From her conversation with the driver, we get to know that she was an aspiring medical student. However, after the recent death of her terminally ill mother, she has decided to change her field of work. Nancy also reveals that her mom got pregnant on this very beach, and this is why it is special. Someday Ryan Reynolds will get her pregnant on this beach, and they'll give birth to a bottle of gin and a soccer team. After a while, they finally arrive at the beach. It is a stunningly beautiful place, just like Nancy had envisioned. The best thing is that the beach is almost empty, apart from a few local surfers. Once the driver leaves, Nancy quickly changes into her swimming gear and readies her surfboard, which was left behind by her mother. Then she dives into the sea and starts paddling towards the waves. On reaching a bit further, she meets the two surfers who seem to be friendly. Nancy asks if she should know anything about the place, and one of them reveals that the jellyfish found here are very dangerous. He also explains that there are a few reefs here, which only appear in the evening when the tides are low. Following the short conversation, the three of them get on their surfboards and ride through the waves. Even Nancy appears to be a pro. A few hours later, the boys get tired and decide to leave. However, Nancy, who has come all the way from the States, wants to have a little more fun. She mentions that she will be here for a few more hours and bids them goodbye. As soon as the boys leave, though, Nancy feels something approaching her from inside the water. Fortunately, it's just a pod of dolphins jumping around in excitement. Nancy is mesmerized by their beauty and playfulness, so she decides to follow them. Surprisingly, after a few minutes, she notices that the sea is completely filled with blood. It is revealed to be coming out of a deceased whale, which was probably hunted a few days ago. Realizing that a predator is nearby, Nancy gets on her surfboard and starts rushing towards safety. Unfortunately, the beast has already noticed her. It strikes the surfboard and sends her tumbling through the rocks. Somehow, Nancy manages to get back on her surfboard, but the beast grabs her leg and pulls her inside the water. It is revealed to be a colossal great white shark. In the ensuing struggle, Nancy's leg is badly wounded, because of which the water around her turns red. But despite this, she somehow manages to get away and climbs the whale carcass. Once she reaches there, Nancy finally realizes the gravity of the situation. She screams and cries for help, but as expected, no one can hear her. She is just too far away from the beach. Meanwhile, the shark is still hellbent on finishing off the intruder. It starts slamming the whale carcass repeatedly, causing Nancy to almost fall off into the water. Hence, she decides to find a more stable surface where she can hide from the shark. She looks around the place and notices two options. The first one is a buoy floating in the water, but it appears to be too far away. The second option is a reef, which is just starting to appear because of the low tides. The only problem is that it will drown again the next day. Nancy gets into a dilemma, but she eventually chooses the reef right before the shark rams the carcass and sends it flying. Now she is in the water, swimming for her life, with a severely injured leg. The shark is also right behind her, coming at full speed. The situation seems to be very perilous, but fortunately, Nancy manages to make it to the reef. There, she meets another one of the shark's victims, a seagull.
Fine.
It was chilling on the whale carcass, minding its own business, when the shark sent it flying. Nancy sympathizes with the bird, but for now, she has her own problems. In order to stop the bleeding in her leg, she uses her ornaments and conducts a makeshift operation. The procedure makes her scream in pain, but little did she know that this is just the start of a terrifying situation. After stitching up her wound, she ties her wetsuit around it, making sure that it doesn't get infected. With that thing off and surrounded by salt water, it is all but ensured that she and the audience are going to get real thirsty. A few hours later, night comes, and it becomes extremely cold. Nancy does some more modifications to her swimsuit and turns it into some sort of jacket. However, the resilient gull doesn't need any of that. He simply looks at Nancy with disapproving eyes, probably thinking that she is a weak-ass being. Later in the night, the two eat some crabs and bond together. In one instance, Nancy notices her surfboard floating not too far from her. Hoping that the shark is long gone, she slowly gets inside the water. However, when she swims for a few minutes, she notices the great white's menacing fin looming above the surface. It turns out the shark is still hovering around the place. Nancy uses the last of her strength and gets back on the reef, but in the process, she hurts her leg again. At this point, she has almost given up. The reef is going to disappear in a few hours, and if the shark doesn't kill her, her worsening wound probably will. But right then, Nancy sees a ray of hope. It is a fat, drunk man who is passed out on the beach. Since he is not that far away, Nancy screams for help, and fortunately, he wakes up. She then instructs him to make a call from her phone, which is kept inside her bag. The man appears to be complying, but as soon as he checks the bag, greed sets in. Right in front of Nancy's eyes, he takes out all her cash, puts her phone in his pocket, and prepares to leave. But just then, he notices the surfboard floating in the water and decides to steal that as well. Despite everything that the greedy man has done, Nancy repeatedly tries to warn him of the danger, but to no avail. Nobody can save an idiot from themselves. He gets into the water and also reaches the surfboard, but before he can return to the shore with it, the shark attacks him, tearing him in half. Nancy can just watch in horror, realizing that there is no way out. The next morning, she is woken up by a few water splashes. This means that the tides are rising, and in a matter of hours, the reef will completely sink. Now, Nancy has to figure out a way to escape this wretched sea as soon as possible. Suddenly, the two surfers from the previous day arrive at the beach. Thank God for unemployed people. They immediately notice Nancy on the reef and start approaching her on their surfboards. Nancy tries her best to explain that a shark is nearby, but the guys, who are regulars of this place, believe that she is joking. Unfortunately, the next second, the killer shark leaps up into the air and gobbles up one of the surfers. Witnessing this, his friend panics. "No, Bodie, no!" and starts swimming towards Nancy anxiously. He eventually makes it, but before she can pull him up, the shark drags him down into the depths of the sea. The sight of a human being dying right in front of her horrifies Nancy, but she knows that she has to be strong if she wants to see her family again. If only the unemployed had better sense. After a while, she picks up the gull and starts tending to his wounds. The little guy bites her at first, obviously annoyed that 3 guys have been killed because of her. But after a while, he calms down. In the next scene, as Nancy is looking for ways to get off the reef, she notices the second surfer's helmet, which has a GoPro on it. This is the same one that we saw at the start of the movie. And despite the shark still circling around the place, Nancy wants to retrieve it. However, this time, she has an idea in mind. Using her watch, she calculates the exact time the shark takes to make a complete rotation of the reef. It turns out to be 30 seconds. Shortly after, Nancy waits for an opportune moment and dives inside the water. She manages to grab the GoPro without any problem, but on the way back, the shark starts chasing her. Nancy somehow gets back on the reef, but the resilient shark tries jumping on the surface to snatch her away. Fortunately, the sharp rocks and poisonous plants instantly repel it back inside the water. After yet another near-death experience, Nancy finally has something that will help her in the middle of the sea, a GoPro. Even the gull is astounded by her stupidity. Nonetheless, Nancy doesn't care. She records a message for her family, telling them to stay strong if she dies in this ocean. Nancy then records another message in which she begs for help. Once she is done, she chucks the GoPro back into the sea, hoping that it will reach the shore, where someone will watch her video and come to her aid. An hour later, it is almost noon. The high tides will soon arrive and sweep the reef away. Now, Nancy will have to dive into the water and reach the buoy at any cost, though the distance to it is 100 meters, which will take at least 2 minutes to reach. Nancy has to make a move. She knows that the shark will most probably catch up to her, but she has to try. Before leaving though, she puts the gull into a broken piece of surfboard and sends it away, hoping the waves will take it to the shore.
Goodbye? Goodbye?
After a while, as Nancy braces herself to dive into the water, she notices hundreds of jellyfish swimming nearby. This gives her an idea. She remembers how the surfers warned her that these animals are very dangerous. Although a risky move, Nancy decides to swim between the jellyfish and use them as a shield against the shark. The plan works. The shark doesn't dare come near her. It appears to be terrified of the jellies. After a while, Nancy finally reaches the buoy, but as she is climbing it, the handle breaks, making her fall back into the water. The shark also arrives, and it appears as if it is going to tear her into pieces. However, Nancy bravely stabs it with the piece of metal, allowing her enough time to climb up the buoy. After this, she looks through the hidden compartment and finds a flare gun. Nancy immediately fires it into the sky to call for help, but no one seems to be around. By this time, the shark has also become very aggressive, and it repeatedly keeps banging on the buoy. It is only a matter of minutes before it sinks. So, with time running out, she comes up with yet another plan. Nancy realizes that the nearby whale carcass has started leaking oil, so she fires the remaining flare into the ocean. As soon as she does so, the water lights up, igniting the shark as well. The massive beast struggles for a while, but then it dives inside the water and extinguishes the fire. It appears as if nothing can put it down. Meanwhile, on the shore, the boy who was playing soccer at the start of the movie has finally found the GoPro. After going through the videos, he immediately runs to call for help. Back at the buoy, the shark has become even more aggressive and it is constantly ramming the buoy. Bit by bit, it disintegrates the large structure and eventually takes it off balance. Now, Nancy is hanging on for dear life. Only a small piece of metal lies between her and the shark. At one point, the buoy goes underwater, and this is when Nancy notices the anchor that is holding it. Located at the bottom of the sea, the anchor is made up of several pointy rods, which gives her yet another idea. So, while the shark is still attacking the buoy, she gets out of it and disconnects the chain. The chain is so heavy that it starts pulling Nancy to the depths of the ocean. The shark finally notices this and starts following her. Now, Nancy has to make her final move. Although the plan can easily result in her death, it is her only shot. So, she waits until the very last second and lets go of the chain. Nancy misses the sharp anchor by inches, but the shark is not so lucky. It gets pierced through and through, resulting in an instant death. In the next scene, the boy finally arrives with his father, who is none other than the driver from earlier. He spots a lifeless Nancy on the shore and immediately starts administering CPR. Fortunately, she wakes up a few seconds later, making everyone happy. Even the gull is there. He cheers her on from the sidelines.
You're fine? You're fine? Seriously? You're fine.
Following this, the movie cuts to 1 year later. Nancy is seen at a beach in Texas. She is healed from her injuries, leaving only a few scars on her legs. Nancy has also resumed her studies and is on her way to becoming a doctor soon. The movie ends as she, along with her sister, jump into the sea, probably to kickstart part 2 of the movie. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.